Jake Harper, a 35-year-old contractor, had built his Seattle-based business from the ground up. His calloused hands and beat-up pickup truck told a story of hard work, but his warm smile and steady income made him a catch. 2 years ago, he met Vanessa Cole, a 28-year-old tech support specialist, at a lively downtown bar through mutual friends. Her sharp wit and radiant confidence drew him in like a moth to a flame. Their early days were a blur of romantic nights, dinners at hole-in-the-wall joints, lazy Sundays exploring Pike Place Market, and debates over which cheesy horror flick was the least awful. Jake was smitten and Vanessa seemed to feel the same. Or so he thought. But there were cracks, subtle at first. Vanessa would toss out sly digs about his rusty truck, smirking as she climbed into the passenger seat. "You ever gonna upgrade this thing, Jake?" she'd tease, her tone just playful enough to dodge confrontation. She never invited him to her company's swanky happy hours, claiming her IT coworkers were too boring for him. Jake, head over heels, brushed it off. Love makes you blind, doesn't it? He figured her quirks were just part of the package until they started to sting. Vanessa worked at a flashy tech firm in the heart of Seattle, a junior role she hyped up like she ran the place. "I'm basically keeping the servers alive," she'd boast, though her paycheck barely covered her designer bags and rent. Jake, meanwhile, was proud of his small construction company. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and then some. He'd pour his heart into every project, from kitchen remodels to office builds, and Vanessa seemed to admire his hustle. At least, that's what she said during their cozy nights in, curled up with takeout and Netflix. About a month ago, Vanessa's company announced a big client appreciation gala at a ritzy downtown hotel. She was tasked with helping plan it, and the stress turned her into a live wire. Late-night calls with vendors, endless emails, she was in deep. One evening, as she scrolled through her phone at Jake's place, she muttered, "Lindsay's bringing her fiancé. He's some hotshot accountant." Jake, stirring pasta on the stove, asked casually, "Oh, can you bring someone too?" Vanessa froze just for a second before flashing a tight smile. "I mean, yeah, I guess. It's just a bunch of corporate types talking shop. You'd probably hate it." Her tone was light, but her eyes darted away. Jake, ever the supportive boyfriend, offered to help. He knew she'd been stressing about her budget, her landlord had just hiked her rent, and she'd dropped hints about moving out. "Let me cover some stuff," he said. "Whatever you need for the event." Her face lit up. "You're a lifesaver, babe." He shelled out $450 for a sleek cocktail dress she had to have for the gala, $200 for a gourmet gift basket for her boss, and another $150 for decor supplies. It wasn't pocket change, but Jake saw it as an investment in her happiness. The night of the gala, he cleaned up nice, tailored suit, fresh haircut, the works. He wanted to be her rock, maybe even charm a few of her colleagues. But as he pulled up to her apartment in his trusty truck, Vanessa barely glanced at him. "You remembered the gift basket, right?" she asked, her focus on her phone. Jake nodded, ignoring the twinge in his gut. At the hotel, things got weirder. Vanessa walked a step ahead of him through the glittering lobby, her heels clicking on marble. As they approached the ballroom, she turned abruptly. "Maybe hang out at the bar for a bit," she said, her voice clipped. "I need to check on some stuff first." Jake frowned. "I can come with you. Maybe help carry something?" She sighed, her expression a mix of irritation and forced patience. "Fine, but don't, hover." The ballroom was a showstopper, crystal chandeliers, an open bar, trays of fancy appetizers floating around. Vanessa's work was impeccable, and Jake felt a swell of pride. That is, until she spotted her colleagues. A woman in a chic black dress waved her over. "Vanessa, this looks amazing." "Who's your friend?" she asked, nodding at Jake. He extended a hand ready to introduce himself, but Vanessa cut in, her voice unnaturally bright. "This is Jake, my driver for the night." The words hit like a sucker punch. Driver? After 2 years, $800 in gala expenses, and countless nights together, he was her driver? The colleague raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical, her gaze flicking over Jake's sharp suit. "Your driver," she repeated. Vanessa laughed too loud. "Yeah, he was sweet enough to drop me off. Right, Jake?" She shot him a look that screamed play along. Jake's jaw tightened, but he kept his cool. He stepped aside, pulling her gently by the elbow. "What the hell was that?" he asked, voice low. Vanessa glanced over her shoulder, checking for eavesdroppers. "Relax, okay? These are important people. My career's on the line. Just wait in the truck or something." Jake stared, disbelief washing over him. "I paid for your dress. I helped fund this party." Her eyes narrowed, and for a moment, her mask slipped. "You should be grateful I even let you come," she snapped. That was it. The rose-colored glasses shattered. Every snide comment, Every dodged introduction, it wasn't quirks or stress. It was her. Jake didn't yell or make a scene. He just nodded. "You're right," he said quietly, then turned and walked out. He grabbed his coat, drove home, and cracked open a beer. His phone buzzed with missed calls and texts from Vanessa. "Where are you? You're embarrassing me." But he ignored them. For the first time in 2 years, he felt awake. And he wasn't going back to sleep. The next morning, Vanessa showed up at his door, eyes puffy but makeup flawless. "What was that last night? You just left me stranded," she cried. Jake leaned against the doorframe, unmoved. "You called me your driver." She rolled her eyes. "It was a joke. God, you're so sensitive. These people matter to my career. I didn't want them thinking I was dating a contractor." She winced, realizing her slip, but doubled down. "It's just office politics. Okay?" Tears welled up, her go-to move. She apologized, promised a romantic weekend getaway, even said, "I love you," her hand brushing his cheek. Jake let her talk, made her coffee, and sent her on her way. She thought they were fine. He knew they weren't. A week later, Vanessa called, bubbling with excitement. "Babe, my birthday's coming up, and I'm planning a dinner with some work friends at that new rooftop spot, Lumiere. Sound fun?" Jake's tone was neutral. "Sure." She hesitated. "Thing is, I'm a bit short after the gala. It's like $1,200 for the private room. Can you help?" Jake saw it coming. "You want my card?" She squealed. "You're the best. I'll swing by tomorrow to grab it." Jake paused. "What time should I be there?" Her voice faltered. "Oh, it's just work people. Boring stuff. You'd hate it." He nodded to himself. "No problem." The next day, Vanessa arrived, all smiles. Jake handed her his credit card. Not his usual one, but she didn't notice. "You're a lifesaver," she said, pecking his cheek before rushing off. As the door closed, Jake picked up his phone and called his bank. "I need to report a lost card," he said calmly. The trap was set, and Vanessa had no idea what was coming. The day of Vanessa's birthday dinner at Lumiere, a sleek rooftop restaurant in Seattle's glittering skyline, Jake Harper was calm but focused. He'd reported his credit card, lost the moment Vanessa left with it, ensuring the bank would cancel it and issue a new one. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about the truth. For 2 years, he'd ignored the red flags. Her snide remarks about his truck, her refusal to introduce him to her colleagues, and that gut-punch moment at the gala when she called him her driver. Now, he saw her clearly, and he wasn't going to let her walk all over him again. Vanessa had been extra sweet since the gala incident, texting heart emojis and planning their future. Jake played along, nodding through her chatter about weekend getaways and new apartments. But her excitement about the birthday dinner gave her away. "It's just a small thing with work friends," she'd said, her voice a touch too casual. "You know, networking. You'd be bored." Jake didn't push. He'd learned her game, keep him close enough to fund her lifestyle, but far enough to protect her image. Tonight, he'd turn the tables. He dressed sharp, sharper than for the gala. A tailored navy suit, crisp white shirt, and polished shoes that could have walked him into any boardroom. Lumiere was upscale, with velvet booths and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Jake arrived early, slipping into the bar area, where a decorative wooden screen gave him a perfect view of the private dining room Vanessa had booked. He ordered a scotch, settled in, and waited. The stage was set. At 7:30 p.m., Vanessa swept in, a vision in a shimmering emerald dress Jake had never seen. She was surrounded by her colleagues, 6 or 7 polished tech types, all laughing and clinking glasses. Among them was a guy in a tailored blazer, mid-30s, who kept hovering close, his hand brushing Vanessa's arm. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into it, her smile brighter than it ever was with Jake. He sipped his scotch, his jaw tight but his resolve steady. This wasn't just about the dinner. It was about who Vanessa really was. The group toasted, snapped photos, and dug into appetizers. Vanessa was in her element, commanding the room with her charm. Jake watched, piecing together the puzzle. She wasn't just throwing a party. She was curating an image, one where a contractor boyfriend didn't fit. The guy in the blazer whispered something in her ear, and she laughed, her hand lingering on his wrist. Jake's grip on his glass tightened, but he stayed put. He wasn't here to confront her about a fling. He was here to expose the bigger lie. At 9:45 p.m., the server delivered the check to the private dining room. Vanessa waved off her colleagues' offers to chip in, her voice loud and confident. "It's my birthday, guys. My treat." She handed over Jake's credit card with a flourish, basking in the applause. Jake leaned forward, his pulse steady. The server disappeared, then returned a few minutes later, bending down to whisper in Vanessa's ear. Her smile faltered. She fumbled with her phone, likely checking her banking app, her fingers moving frantically. Jake's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text. "Jake, something's wrong with your card. It's declined. Call me now." He didn't respond. Another text followed. "This is serious. The bill's over $10,000. I look like an idiot. Please." Jake took another sip of scotch, his eyes fixed on the scene. Vanessa's face flushed as she rifled through her purse, pulling out other cards. She'd complained about maxed-out credit cards just last week, so Jake knew she was sunk. Her colleagues exchanged awkward glances, the mood souring. The guy in the blazer leaned back, his earlier warmth gone. Vanessa excused herself, her voice shaky, and stepped into the hallway, furiously typing. Jake's phone buzzed again. "Where are you?" "Fix this." He typed a single reply. "Look behind you." Vanessa's head snapped up, her eyes scanning the room. When they landed on Jake at the bar, her face went pale. He stood, slipped an envelope from his jacket, and walked toward the private dining room, his steps deliberate. The room fell silent as he entered, all eyes on him. Vanessa's colleagues froze, some recognizing him from the gala. The woman in the black dress from that night squinted. "Wait, isn't that your driver?" Jake smiled, calm and devastating. "Not quite," he said, his voice carrying just enough warmth to disarm the table. "I'm Jake, Vanessa's boyfriend of 2 years. Or was." He opened the envelope and laid out a few photos, snapshots of them at a beach getaway, a Christmas party, a hiking trip. "I'm also the guy who paid for her dress at your gala, the gift basket for your boss, and, apparently, this dinner." He paused, letting the words sink in. "But that card? Reported lost yesterday." "Sorry, Vanessa, you're on your own." The table erupted in whispers. Vanessa's mouth opened, but no words came out. The guy in the blazer shifted uncomfortably, distancing himself. The woman in the black dress, Vanessa's manager, Jake realized, frowned, her gaze flicking between the photos and Vanessa. "You said he was your driver," she said, her tone sharp. Vanessa stammered, "It was a joke, but Jake cut her off, his voice steady. "No need to explain. I just came to wish you a happy birthday." He turned to the table. "Enjoy the night, folks. The bill's all hers." Vanessa lunged, grabbing his arm. "Jake, you can't do this. At least cover the bill." He looked at her hand, then her face, and gently pulled away. "You've got this, Vanessa," he said softly, then walked out. Behind him, chaos unfolded, Vanessa's panicked apologies, colleagues scrambling for their wallets, the manager's icy stare. Jake didn't look back. He paid for his scotch, tipped the bartender, and stepped into the cool Seattle night, feeling lighter than he had in years. By the time he got home, his phone was flooded with texts and voicemails from Vanessa, pleas, excuses, then threats. "You humiliated me. I'll ruin you." He blocked her number, poured another drink, and let the silence settle. The trap had worked, but this wasn't the end. Vanessa's lies ran deeper than he'd realized, and the fallout was just beginning. Vanessa's birthday dinner at Lumiere was supposed to be her crowning moment, a chance to dazzle her colleagues and cement her image as the tech firm's rising star. Instead, Jake's calculated move, canceling the credit card she'd used for the $10,000 bill, left her exposed, scrambling to salvage her reputation. As Jake walked away from the restaurant, the weight of 2 years of betrayal lifted, but questions lingered. What else was Vanessa hiding? And how far would her house of cards fall? The next morning, Jake woke to a quiet apartment and a clearer mind. His phone, free of Vanessa's frantic messages after he'd blocked her, felt like a small victory. He brewed coffee and replayed the night's events, not with glee, but with a strange mix of relief and pity. Vanessa's panic, her colleagues' shock, the way her manager's eyes narrowed, it was a scene he'd never forget. But he wasn't done processing it. Something about her confidence, her ease with that guy in the blazer, nagged at him. There was more to her deception than he'd uncovered. By noon, his phone buzzed with a new message, this time on LinkedIn. It was from Claire, the colleague in the black dress from the gala, Vanessa's manager. "Jake, can we talk? It's about Vanessa. I owe you an apology." Intrigued, Jake agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near his office. Claire arrived looking polished but uneasy, her usual corporate poise softened by guilt. Over lattes, she cut to the chase. I had no idea you were her boyfriend, she said. Vanessa told everyone you were just a friend who helped with the gala. She's been less than honest. Claire revealed a bombshell. Vanessa had been exaggerating her role at the company for months. She wasn't just a tech support specialist, she claimed to be a project lead, taking credit for team wins she barely contributed to. She dropped hints about big promotions, even a corner office, Claire said, shaking her head. We believed her at first. She's convincing. Jake's stomach churned. The Vanessa he thought he knew, ambitious but overworked, was a fiction. And there was more. Claire leaned in, lowering her voice. That guy at the dinner, Ethan? Senior developer. They've been seeing each other behind your back for months. Jake's grip on his coffee mug tightened, but he kept his expression neutral. Months? Claire nodded. I suspected something, but last night confirmed it. The way they acted, how he backed off when you showed up, it was obvious. I'm sorry, Jake. He exhaled, the sting of betrayal sharp but not surprising. It fit Vanessa's pattern, curate the perfect image, discard anyone who didn't serve it. He thanked Claire for her honesty and left, his mind racing. Ethan's role explained Vanessa's secrecy, her insistence on keeping Jake away from her work world. But it also raised the stakes. How far had her lies spread? That evening, Jake's doorbell rang. He opened it to find Vanessa, her usual polish replaced by disheveled hair and red-rimmed eyes. No flawless makeup this time, just raw desperation. Jake, please, she said, her voice cracking. Last night was a disaster. I didn't mean for it to go like that. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. You mean the part where you used my card for a $10,000 dinner I wasn't invited to? Or where you've been cheating with Ethan? Her eyes widened, and for a moment she looked genuinely rattled. Who told you about Ethan? Doesn't matter, Jake said, his tone even. You've been playing me for 2 years, Vanessa. The gala, the dinner, your job, you've been lying to everyone. She shook her head, tears spilling. It's not like that. Ethan was just a work thing. I was under so much pressure, Jake. My boss was threatening to fire me if I didn't impress the clients. I had to look the part, you know? She reached for his hand, but he stepped back. You helped me because you love me. I messed up, okay? Let me fix it. Her words were a masterclass in manipulation, half-truths laced with just enough vulnerability to tug at the heart. A month ago, Jake might have wavered. But now he saw the performance for what it was. You called me your driver, he said quietly. You hid me from your world because I didn't fit your Instagram perfect life. And you cheated. There's no fixing that. Vanessa's face hardened, the tears drying up. You're really going to throw away 2 years over one mistake? I made you look good, Jake. You're a contractor. I could have done better. The jab landed, but Jake didn't flinch. You're right, he said, echoing his words from the gala. You deserve better. Good luck with that. He closed the door, her protests muffled as he walked away. Blocking her number had been step 1, cutting her out of his life was step 2. But the revelations from Claire and Vanessa's own admission lit a fire in him. This wasn't just personal anymore. Her lies had ripple effects, and Jake wasn't the only one she'd burned. The next day, Claire texted him an update. After the dinner fiasco, Vanessa's colleagues had started digging. Her exaggerated claims about her role came under scrutiny, and an HR investigation was underway. Ethan, the senior developer, had distanced himself, unwilling to be tied to her sinking ship. Jake didn't revel in her downfall, but he felt a quiet satisfaction. Vanessa had built her world on deception, and now it was crumbling. He wondered what her next move would be: double down or disappear. As he drove to a job site, his phone pinged with a new voicemail, slipped through before he'd fully blocked her. Vanessa's voice was shaky but venomous. You think you won, Jake? You humiliated me in front of everyone. I'll make sure people know what a petty, vindictive jerk you are. The threat hung in the air, but Jake deleted it without a second thought. Let her try. He'd spent 2 years building a business on honesty and hard work. His reputation could take a hit. Hers? That was another story. Jake didn't know it yet, but Vanessa's unraveling was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would bring her past crashing into her present and force her to face the consequences head-on. For now, he focused on moving forward, unaware that a surprise visitor was about to shed light on the roots of her betrayal. Jake Harper thought he'd seen the last of Vanessa Cole after exposing her lies at her extravagant $10,000 birthday dinner. By canceling the credit card she'd used and revealing their 2-year relationship to her stunned colleagues, he dismantled her carefully crafted facade. Her cheating with Ethan, her fabricated job status, her dismissal of Jake as a mere driver. It all unraveled in one devastating night. But as Jake moved on, Vanessa's world continued to collapse, and an unexpected visit would reveal the deeper roots of her deception. The days following the Lumiere disaster were quiet for Jake. He threw himself into his construction business, meeting clients and sketching plans for a new office remodel. The sting of Vanessa's betrayal lingered, but it was fading, replaced by a clarity he hadn't felt in years. Blocking her number had silenced her desperate texts and threats, and he'd ignored the voicemails that slipped through. Her final message, a venomous promise to ruin him, didn't faze him. Jake knew his worth, his business was solid, his clients loyal. Vanessa's words were empty, a last gasp from someone who'd built her life on lies. But the fallout was far from over. A week after the dinner, Jake got another LinkedIn message from Claire, Vanessa's manager. HR finished their review. Vanessa's out. Call me if you want details. Curious, Jake dialed her. Claire's voice was clipped, professional, but laced with disbelief. She wasn't just exaggerating her role, Claire explained. Vanessa falsified reports, claimed credit for projects she barely touched, even lied about client meetings to seem indispensable. HR found emails where she threw colleagues under the bus to cover her tracks. Jake listened, unsurprised but shaken. Vanessa's ambition wasn't just ruthless, it was reckless. Claire dropped another bombshell. Ethan, the senior developer Vanessa had been secretly seeing, had cut ties completely. He's got a fiancée, Claire said. Apparently, Vanessa knew but didn't care. When the dinner blew up, he bailed to save his own skin. Jake shook his head, picturing the guy in the blazer shrinking away at Lumiere. Vanessa's charm had limits, it seemed. Claire sighed. She's gone silent. No one's heard from her since she cleared out her desk. Jake thanked her and hung up, a mix of pity and resolve settling in. Vanessa's lies had caught up with her, but he wasn't celebrating. He just wanted her out of his life for good. 2 weeks later, Jake's doorbell rang on a rainy Seattle evening. He opened it to find an older couple, their faces etched with unease. The man, silver-haired and broad-shouldered, cleared his throat. Jake Harper? I'm Tom Cole. This is my wife, Linda. We're Vanessa's parents. Jake blinked, caught off guard. He'd met them only once, a brief dinner when they'd visited a year ago. They'd seemed kind, if a bit reserved. Now they stood on his doorstep, looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. Can we come in? Linda asked, her voice soft. Jake nodded, leading them to his living room. The air was heavy as they sat, Tom fidgeting with his glasses, Linda clutching her purse. Finally, Tom spoke. We're here to apologize. For Vanessa. For everything. Jake leaned back, unsure what to expect. Linda's eyes glistened. We heard what happened at the restaurant, the gala, all of it. We're horrified. Tom nodded grimly. She's our daughter, but we raised her better than this. Or we thought we did. They painted a picture that filled in the gaps of Vanessa's behavior. Growing up, she'd been their golden child, bright, beautiful, always chasing the spotlight. But they'd indulged her too much, Tom admitted. Designer clothes, private schools, endless praise. We told her to aim high, find someone stable, he said, wincing. I even joked when we met you that she'd landed a big fish with your company. But we never meant for her to use people. Linda's voice broke. She got caught up in appearances. We should have seen it sooner. Jake listened, the pieces clicking into place. Vanessa's obsession with status, her need to impress her colleagues, her dismissal of his unglamorous job. It wasn't just her. It was a mindset she'd been steeped in, amplified by a tech world that rewarded flash over substance. But understanding didn't erase the hurt. She lied to me for 2 years, Jake said quietly. Cheated, hid me, used my money. Why are you here now? Linda pulled an envelope from her purse. Vanessa's too ashamed to face you herself. But we wanted you to have this. Inside was a check for $925, covering the gala dress, the gift basket, and the decor supplies Jake had paid for. A handwritten note from Vanessa was tucked in, her usually bold script shaky. I'm sorry for hurting you. I got lost in who I thought I needed to be. I'm trying to do better. Tom explained she sold some of her things, bags, jewelry, to cover it. It's a start. Jake stared at the check, his emotions tangled. The money didn't matter, it never had. But the gesture, forced or not, was a crack in Vanessa's armor. What's happened to her? He asked. Tom's shoulders sagged. She lost her job, her apartment. She's living with us now, back in Tacoma. She's struggling? Linda added, she's seeing a counselor, trying to figure herself out. But she's got a long road ahead. Jake nodded, the weight of their words settling. He didn't hate Vanessa, not anymore. She'd made her choices, and now she was paying the price. Thank you for coming, he said, standing. I appreciate it. Tom extended a hand, his grip firm. You're a good man, Jake. You didn't deserve this. Linda hugged him, a quick, awkward embrace, before they left, disappearing into the rain. Alone, Jake tucked the check away, unsure if he'd cash it. The apology, the note, it was closure, but not absolution. Vanessa's world had imploded, her lies exposed not just to him but to everyone she tried to impress. Ethan had ghosted her, her career was in ruins, and her parents' shame was palpable. Jake felt no joy in her downfall, only a quiet resolve to move forward. He trusted the wrong person, but he wouldn't make that mistake again. As he locked the door, his phone pinged with a text from Sarah, a kind-hearted teacher he'd met at a coffee shop a few days earlier. Still up for grabbing coffee tomorrow? Excited to hear more about your business. Jake smiled, a flicker of hope breaking through. Sarah's genuine curiosity about his work, her easy laugh, it was a stark contrast to Vanessa's calculated charm. He typed back, absolutely. See you then. The storm of Vanessa's betrayal was fading, but its lessons lingered. Jake was ready to rebuild not just his heart but his trust in others. Little did he know, one final twist awaited, a chance encounter that would tie up the loose ends of Vanessa's deception and solidify his path forward. Jake Harper had walked away from Vanessa Cole's web of lies, leaving her to face the consequences of her $10,000 birthday dinner debacle and a career built on deception. Her parents' visit with their apology and repayment had brought Jake a sense of closure, but not peace. Vanessa's betrayal, calling him her driver, cheating with Ethan, using his money to fuel her facade, had left scars. Yet, as he rebuilt his life, a final encounter would cement his growth and reveal the full arc of Vanessa's reckoning. 3 weeks after the Coles' visit, Jake was settling into a new rhythm. His construction business thrived, with a major contract to remodel a downtown co-working space keeping him busy. The long hours were a welcome distraction, grounding him in the tangible, blueprints, lumber, the hum of power tools. Vanessa's shadow lingered, but it was fading. Her parents' words had clarified her motives, her materialistic upbringing, but Jake refused to dwell on the past. He'd learned a hard lesson: trust people when they show their true colors, no matter how charming the mask. His budding connection with Sarah, the teacher he'd met at a coffee shop, was a bright spot. Their first coffee date had stretched into hours, her questions about his business sparking a warmth Vanessa never showed. Sarah didn't care about flashy titles or designer labels. She laughed at his stories of botched drywall jobs and asked about his favorite projects. You build things people rely on, she'd said, her eyes earnest. That's real. Jake felt seen, not as a wallet or a status symbol, but as himself. They'd planned a second date, a hike in the Cascades, and for the first time in months, Jake felt hopeful. But Vanessa's story wasn't done. One gray Saturday morning, as Jake loaded supplies into his truck for a job site, a familiar figure approached. It was Claire, Vanessa's former manager, bundled in a raincoat. Jake, got a minute? She asked, her expression a mix of resolve and hesitation. Surprised, he nodded, leaning against his truck. Claire's presence wasn't entirely unexpected. Her LinkedIn messages had kept him in the loop about Vanessa's firing, but her showing up unannounced felt significant. I owe you another apology, Claire began, rain pattering on her hood. I should have questioned Vanessa's stories sooner. She fooled a lot of us, but you got the worst of it. Jake shrugged, his breath visible in the chilly air. You didn't know. None of us did. Claire shook her head. I knew something was off. The way she name-dropped clients, took credit for work, she was too polished, too perfect. But I let it slide until the dinner. She paused, then dropped a final piece of the puzzle. There's something else. Vanessa wasn't just lying to us. She was skimming funds from the gala budget. Jake's eyes narrowed. Skimming? Claire nodded. Small amounts, decor overcharges, fake vendor invoices. She pocketed maybe a couple grand. HR found it after the investigation. It's why her firing was so swift. Jake exhaled, the scope of Vanessa's deceit sinking in. The gala, which he'd helped fund with $800, wasn't just a stage for her lies, it was a scam. Is she facing charges? He asked. Claire's lips tightened. Not yet. The company's weighing legal action, but she's already gone. Moved back to her parents' place in Tacoma. Her social media's dark. She's laying low. The news didn't surprise Jake, but it solidified his view of Vanessa. Her charm, her tears, her promises to do better, they were tools, not truths. Yet, he felt no urge to gloat. "Thanks for telling me," he said. Claire hesitated, then added, "You handled it better than most would've. That night at Lumiere? You didn't just call her out, you showed who she really was." It shook her. Jake gave a small nod. "I just wanted the truth out." Claire smiled faintly. "You got it out. And you helped to see it too." She wished him well and left, her figure fading into the drizzle. That evening, Jake sat in his apartment, the check from Vanessa's parents still uncashed on his desk. The $925 was a gesture, not a fix. He didn't need the money, but their visit had shown him something. Vanessa's reckoning wasn't just professional. Living with her parents, selling her prized possessions, seeing a counselor, she was confronting a reality she'd spent years dodging. Jake didn't forgive her, but he didn't wish her ill. He wanted her to learn, to grow, the way he was trying to. His second date with Sarah the next day was a breath of fresh air. The Cascade Trail was muddy but stunning, mist curling through evergreens. Sarah teased him when he slipped on a route, then listened intently as he described his latest project. "You're building a space where people create," she said, brushing dirt off her jacket. "That's kind of poetic." Jake laughed, a real laugh, unburdened by the weight of Vanessa's games. When Sarah asked about his past relationships, he kept it brief. "I dated someone who didn't value me. It taught me to trust actions, not words." Sarah nodded, her gaze steady. "Good lesson." Back in Seattle, Jake heard whispers of Vanessa's new reality. A mutual friend mentioned she'd enrolled in a community college course, something about business ethics. Her Instagram, once a curated gallery of glamour, stayed offline. Jake didn't check, didn't care to. His focus was forward on Sarah, on his work, on the life he was building. But one final moment tied the story together. At a networking event for local contractors, a client approached, grinning. "Heard you're the guy who pulled a fast one at Lumiere." "Epic move." Jake smiled, deflecting. "Just settling a debt." The client's words stuck with him, not for the praise, but for the clarity they brought. Vanessa's betrayal had been a crucible, burning away his naivety. He trusted her charm, ignored her slights, and paid the price. But in exposing her, he'd reclaimed his self-respect. The memory of her calling him driver at the gala still stung, but it was a reminder. Some people reveal their truth in fleeting moments, others through calculated cruelty. Either way, you believe them the first time. Jake's phone buzzed as he drove home. A text from Sarah: "Found a new trail for next weekend. You in?" He typed back, "Count me in." The road ahead was open, and for the first time in years, Jake felt ready to travel it. Vanessa's story was over, her lessons hard-won. Jake's was just beginning, built on truth, trust, and the quiet strength of knowing his worth.